'Twas the night before Star Wars, and fans of all kinds were slowly realizing that
everyone loses their minds.
What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. The Rise of Skywalker's here. Now, just kidding. Today we are going to talk about this movie. I'm not going to wait any longer. I feel like I'm the last person to see this film, critic-wise, on YouTube, but I finally seen it. I need you guys in the comments down below. How y'all feeling right now? Good? Bad? Okay, let's talk about it. So, the surviving resistance faces the First Order once more in the final chapter of the Star Wars saga. Honestly, what is there to say that hasn't already been said by everyone on YouTube? Whether you're on one side of the fence or the other, this is definitively, in my opinion, a movie that is a part of a very messy trilogy. Regardless of how you feel about the other two films, if you line all three movies up, they don't necessarily cohesively go together as, well, definitely the original trilogy, but, you know, even the prequels. Say what you want about those movies, the overall arching story, there is a beginning and an ending. Maybe the execution wasn't the best getting there, but they got there and they told an epic story. Within this trilogy, as a part of the overarching saga, all three movies feel very distinct and different. And sometimes that's okay, right? When you have a series of movies such as Mission Impossible's, right? They come out, they feel different, it's nice, but the characters remain the same. The ideas and the thematic elements are all very consistent within this trilogy. And listen, I have my thoughts about the other two films, right? And I love things about this set of movies. I really do. And really the Disney era, there are so many things to love, but regardless if you love it or hate it, it's really obvious that they just didn't have a plan. They didn't really know where they were going to go with this franchise, and they kind of made it up as they went along. Now, if that is something that ended up working for you, great. If that's something that you're on the other side of and you could not stand what they did with these films, great. I mean, there's no sense in arguing back and forth. And yes, if you feel firm in your beliefs and you believe this movie is better than that movie, or I prefer the prequels over the sequels, or heck, I don't like the original trilogy, whatever you think about all of the rest of the films, you're allowed to defend yourself and defend your opinion. But the hostility has really kept me from wanting to go back and wanting to rewatch all of the Star Wars films in preparation, anticipation of this movie. Well, my wife and I ended up going back. We ended up watching all of the other movies. And, you know, even the movies that I don't like structure-wise, even the films that I don't like on a technical level, every film served the overall story. Every movie had something great in it. And that's what I love about Star Wars, right? Star Wars, and I saw this on Twitter, I'm stealing it from someone, Star Wars is like cake. Sometimes you get a flavor you don't necessarily love, but you know what? It's still cake. I'll eat it. I'll have fun, or at least as much fun with it as I can possibly have. Now, The Rise of Skywalker, it's a very interesting beast because JJ really did, well, I don't even know if it's JJ at this point. Disney wanted to make up for The Last Jedi, even though The Last Jedi has its fans, right? But it also has people who completely oppose that film. Whether it's the minority or the majority, there was one side that was a lot louder than the other side, and those were the people that did not necessarily love The Last Jedi. And because of that, I think Disney did something that they never should have done. They shoehorned and shoved every bit of fan service, even if it did not go along with the plot, it did not go along with the story, or it felt like it was thrown in there at the last second. They threw it into this film. I mean, my goodness, all the way throughout, things that don't feel like they belong there are in this film just because, right? If you don't like that sort of thing, you're not going to like this movie. Austin, did you have fun with this film? I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I had a bit of fun with it. Is it a great movie? At this point, I don't know. You know, it's one of those that I have to go back and I have to see again because there were so many elements that I questioned. Elements I can't get into right now because this is a non-spoiler review, right? Things that are done within the Force, things that characters do, things that I never thought I would see in a Star Wars film, don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, that were done in this movie that I have questions about. I'm like, all right, how did that character do that? And then all throughout the film, there are plot points brought up. There are characters that say things. Finn in particular, he says something earlier on in the movie, and we think we're going to get some sort of resolve from what he says. And I didn't even realize it when I walked out, but thinking back, I'm going, did we ever? No, that was never brought up again. It just felt like there were so many subplots and story points and character arcs that just never really came to a close. Now, the movie itself, it has a definitive end, right? They say this is the end of the saga, and they do a really good job, a nice job, I'll say that, of putting a cap on everything. And I'm not going to lie to you, I got emotional at times, right? The music swells, and that's a testament to John Williams, the last time we're ever going to hear his Star Wars score, and that can put a tear in your eye, and Leia's on screen, right? Now, I love the way that they handled her character. They do work around certain things, and at times it does feel like, well, they're working around what she said to make that scene work. So if you think too hard about it, it may bug you, but it didn't bug me because it's something that they had to work with. And then that's the thing about this movie, and not that I'm going to defend JJ to the death here, because I don't know if everything that I didn't love about this movie is his fault, but he had a lot that he had to fix and change because obviously somebody is telling him we're going to ignore the majority of The Last Jedi. Now, are there things in here that carry over from The Last Jedi? Absolutely. And I read some reviews that said there was, and I'm just like, well, this, that, and that. But from a character standpoint, from an arc standpoint, they really do just kind of shove that aside. And because of that, the first 45 minutes of this movie, the most frantically paced Star Wars chunk of time I've ever experienced in my life, I do believe it suffers because it felt like they were trying to go back and kind of do a new second movie and just change some things up. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted. Now, if this movie was split into two films, and I rarely say something like that, then maybe I would have liked it more, right? Because they shoved so much story in. I've been seeing all of the reviews. There's like wipe, and they're using the transitions and the fade so often, and I'm like, yeah, it's true. I mean, even my brother, he went to the movie with me. Josh, you told me this. He's been standing here the whole time. Josh, you told me this when we walked out of the movie. Weren't there so many transitions? Get over here.
Yes, there were.
How'd you feel about the movie as a whole?
Well, if I was going to give my score,
Okay.
I would execute Order 66.
All right, get out of here with the puns. Okay, sorry about that, but they really did. They sped through the first two acts of the film, and there were, plenty of things to like. It's not like this movie is void of moments, because there's some great moments in here. And back to me watching reviews, because I'm like the last one to review this. I've been seeing reviews that are like, there's nothing to like. Maybe if you go in with that mindset, there's nothing to like. And maybe if you are like the world's biggest fan of The Last Jedi, then you're going to be upset that they really did make a movie that is pure, unadulterated fan service. We're going to take this tweet, we're going to take that tweet, and this tweet, and we're going to combine them, and we're going to make a movie about it. And I honestly don't know how to feel about that at this point. I mean, it really does, but artistically, it bugs me. But then again, like fan service, I'm a fan. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The theater that I was in, jumping, screaming, freaking out, I think a lot of people, more so the general audience, but I think a lot of people are going to like this more than The Last Jedi. I think a lot of people are going to like this more than The Force Awakens. I'm not quite there. I mean, I'm a big fan of The Force Awakens. There it is. He said it. Bye. And I am now viewing it back now that we have the full trilogy as a whole. I don't know how I'm going to feel about the character arc. And that's another thing that I have a complaint about with this film is that there were no major arcs. In movies, characters have to change. They have to grow in some sort of way or devolve. And I just didn't really feel that. One, sure. Maybe another, but there are so many characters that come into play, right? The new characters we were getting posters for and pictures and art, and it's like, yes, that looks really cool. I wonder who she's going to be. And then they end up, we don't know anything about them. Now, maybe at the last minute, they'll be like, oh, by the way, you are this, or you're here, I'm friends with you, or I know you from somewhere. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, they threw so many, the final 30 seconds of this movie, it's like, by the way, actually, and as negative as I sound, I still had fun with it. Maybe the internet has just caused me to go completely insane and I want to revolt, but honestly, I know the Rotten Tomatoes score right now is in the 50s, but if you look at the average score, it's above a 6. That's not glowing, but it's still positive. Honestly, guys, if you love the movie, if you hated it, there are moments to love. There are definitely moments that, well, I wouldn't even say, for me, I'm always a positive person, so I'm not going to sit here and hate on something. I did want more. I'll be honest with you. I absolutely wanted more, but I did have fun, especially in the third act, man. It gets epic. It gets grand. It is the most Star Wars-y Star Wars of Star Wars that Star Wars has ever Star Warsed. That tells you something. And honestly, I don't feel comfortable giving a score right now, but I'm going to because that's a consistent thing that I do in reviews. But I'm planning on doing a spoiler review. Maybe I'll up it. Maybe I'll lower it once I see this movie again. It is a movie I have to see again because these, well, really every Star Wars films, I have either lowered or heightened my opinion, my score multiple times. I grew up with the prequels. Watching them back, they've changed a tad bit for me. Still love Revenge of the Sith. Regardless, it's a franchise that just, it goes back and forth, but at the end of the day, I still love the franchise. I still love Star Wars. I have a lot of questions about how a lot of things work, and if those questions have not so good answers, score could lower. But I also have things that I want to go back and see and experience again, and like I said, my crowd loved it. So, if you guys like this video and you enjoy these kinds of reviews, hit that thumbs up and let me know if you enjoyed this review of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I'm going positive, right? I don't know how much higher I'm going to go than a 6 out of 10. Right now, I'm going to settle. I'm going to settle with a 63% just because there are definite flaws, things that I need to think about and ponder upon. It's really hard doing a review right after you see the movie, but I just wanted to sit down and talk about the film. That's what we did here today. Oh boy. Can't wait to see how this turns out. All right, you guys are the best. Thank you always for your comments and your discussion down below. I need to go see this movie again. Stay tuned. Hit that notification bell because I'll be back with a spoiler review at some point in the future. All right, I'll see you soon.